Let's do this.
The Scoop Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well, Roswell, how you doing? Amazing. This is one of the great cities in the United States, and I'm going to say it right now. Roswell, give it up for yourselves right now. This is amazing. Come on, let's go. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We are live from the 2016 UFO Festival right here in downtown Roswell, New Mexico. This is a long road coming, folks. 2 years ago, this man to my left, we spent a lot of time together in California. And all he said was, we've got to do Roswell. We've got to get you out there. We planned it, and we planned it, and we planned it. Here we are 2 years later, and we're rocking Main Street right here from the Roswell UFO Museum. And again, give it up. Let's get the show going. All right? I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, this is a live broadcast. We're feeding around the world, and I want everybody to know we're going to bring through here 12, 13, 14 of the best researchers, authors, people that you have respected forever. And as you can see, sitting to my left, I have Don Schmitt and Tom Carey. We're going to bring them on here in a minute. Before I get to Don and Tom, and I will, of course, talk about Don's fine hair products. And if you want to, after the show, he's got business cards, and he will hand them out. And his hair products are the finest. And his microphones are not on right now, and he really wants to say something. But anyway, this is the deal. A lot of people here, great faces. Who thinks they traveled the farthest? Okay. Oh, you know what? When it's only one hand, that's somebody really cocky. He came from Antarctica, right? Where'd you come from, sir? What's your name? New Hampshire. Okay, that's a round of applause. Okay. Can anybody beat New Hampshire? He came from Mars. What was your name again? Don, come here. And see, this is how you do it, folks. He wasn't scared to raise his hand. And you know what? That might be the right size, too. New Hampshire, did you drive or fly? To Albuquerque and drive in? Oh, you drove. I'm sorry. I thought you see, I've got headphones on, Don. I apologize. You drove from New Hampshire. No kidding. In an RV? With family? And everybody arrived alive. That's it. That's impressive. All right, New Hampshire. Okay. The audience participation for me, like I said right before the show, I am in a bunker. I'm alone in a windowless bunker when I broadcast live. And the drive from the audience is amazing. And tonight, because I'm not taking phone calls, so you guys are my phone system, okay? Audience participation, you're going to get something. So don't be scared. All right, let's have some fun tonight. Ufology and the paranormal is something that, and I was talking before the show about this, Don and Tom know this all too well. It's a very emotional thing. And I do a lot of live broadcasts. And when I get out and I do that, and I look out and everybody is so serious, they're just it's a serious subject. They don't want, we're so used to being called the tinfoil hat crazy, right? Well, we are not, right? But we're afraid of, and I like to have fun. So it's okay to have fun, all right? So everybody, I want you to smile and laugh and have fun tonight. If you have any questions or anything, raise your hand. It's a first-time opportunity for you, absolutely, to interface with these researchers one-on-one. Okay, are we down for that? Are you guys? I want energy pumped. All right. Now, I've got to do this for the live broadcast. Please visit our sponsors, Life Change Tea and Studio Dome. Go to the website, jimmychurchradio.com, and click and head over and use the promo codes when you check out. With that, you can email throughout the show tonight, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio, hashtag F2B. I'll say that to everybody here. If you're on Twitter, follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio. Fade to Black, Coast to Coast AM, History Channel, all of these things that all of us here tonight and all of the guests that will be here, we all participate in. These are people that you see on History Channel. You hear them on Coast to Coast with myself or Nori. Clyde Lewis is in town, as you guys know, and he's another partner of ours. And the thing is that is important to all of us when we are doing these interviews and these shows, we are passionate about what we do. These two guys have been hanging tough now almost as long as I've been alive. And the funny thing is I'm only 2 years younger than Don here. But we do it because we want to share knowledge. But it doesn't do any good in this room if you don't take that knowledge and go and find the doofus friend of yours and go, hey, you know what? Things are different. Things are not what they seem. Are you guys all hip to what I'm saying? It is so important for us all to go and do that. Well, you can sit here, this room. Where's Rita? Rita, are you here? She's in the back. She knows exactly what I'm about to say right now. Which is, right? Which is this. We all get it. Don't we all get it? We all get it. So really, this is the wrong audience. We need the audience that doesn't get it, right? We need them in here, but they're not. So you need to go and take everything that you're going to learn over the next 3 days here in Roswell and go out and spread the knowledge and share it with everybody else. Now, with that, these two gentlemen here, I respect a lot, and I'm of course talking about Don Schmitt and Tom Carey. They've both been on my show. Don has been on with me. You know what? I'll bring up your microphones now. There you guys go. Don, how many times have you been on with me now?
5 times.
5 times. And it's not enough. No, it's not enough.
It always goes by too quickly.
It always goes by too quickly. And there's always...
And we're still friends.
And yeah. Now, the importance of Roswell, there's one thing, Don, that you and I have talked about a lot over the years, but Roswell almost didn't happen. And the reason why that is so important here is if you go back to that first week of July 3rd, 1947, there were a lot of incidents that happened in the year of 1947 and leading up to Roswell. It wasn't a singular event. There was a lot of sightings that were, going...
Absolutely. There was that entire summer wave where it was as though someone else's aircraft had arrived and invaded our airspace. And any one of the people here in the audience or your listening audience could go to the respective public libraries and pull out all the microfilm, all the microfiche, and pull out all the newspaper accounts, the banner headlines day after day after day describing these flying discs. Even the very term flying saucer was coined by the press after the Kenneth Arnold sighting from June 24th of Belle Bichette at the Oregorian. And came up with, not based on their shape, but the fact is Arnold described them like saucers skipping across the water.
The action.
Precisely.
Not the shape. And And so with that, it wasn't that, and this is where I'm going with this, and everybody, just follow me for a second. What's important to realize here is that as big and as important as Roswell was, we had the radio and the press release and the military involved in the very beginning is what I'm referring to here. After that, Roswell disappeared. It completely disappeared for decades. All of the other sensational cases that happened before it, even Maury Island was spoken about, and Rhodes and Phoenix, and these other cases that happened were talked about on radio shows like this in the 50s and 60s, and Long John Neville. Right.
Absolutely.
But there was never a mention of Roswell. And if you go back and listen to these Long John Neville broadcasts from the 50s and 60s, all the way up through when he died in 74, there was no mention of Roswell. And it's like, how can that be? All these famous researchers and authors and Kehoe and not even, what was funny? Kenneth Arnold never mentioned Roswell.
Correct.
In the interviews that he did. Tom, did you know that?
Yes. During the 50s, the major UFO researcher was Donald E. Kehoe.
Yes.
And the problem was that he didn't want to look at or even consider crashed UFOs because there was a group of people that sort of infiltrated the flying saucer phenomenon called contactees.
Right.
And these contactees would make up these stories about being transported around the solar system, and they were had space brothers for friends, and they were mostly wackos, okay? So the subject became taboo even for flying saucer enthusiasts because of Donald Kehoe and his decision not to even consider those cases.
And isn't it fascinating when you look at today, and look who's in the front row, Larry Holcomb right there.
I know.
Man, we got rock stars in the house.
And he's awake.
Yes. is what's fascinating is if they would have only known or could have known what Roswell is today, the recognition, the celebration, the ongoing interest, not only on the public level but the civic and the businesses here, that everybody here gets it. Wouldn't they just be? I don't know, mind-tied. I mean, they probably wouldn't believe what is going on today in 2016.
And we're often accused of having generated all this Roswell hype and that none of these witnesses came forward until we had this preconceived idea that let's go down to Roswell and create this myth, make up this whole scenario, and then see how many people we could get to jump on the bandwagon. It never takes into account that, as any police officer, any insurance investigator could tell you, 10 people see an accident, you get 10 different versions, 10 different accounts. That's the amazing thing about Roswell, that there's very little as far as people that are not supporting one another's testimony, that you're able to plug in as far as each and every one's involvement, whether military or civilian, that they overlap, they crosshatch. And that this would have risen to the point, not only as far as this museum, but all the best-selling books, the motion picture, all the documentaries, and the fact that it has also gone all the way to the office of the presidency.
That's right.
That President Bill Clinton, that he still laments the fact that he spent 8 hours in the Oval Office and he couldn't get the truth about this. We could throw the late Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona,
right.
The former late Congressman Stephen Schiff of New Mexico, former Governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson. So you see what type of company we all are in, that it isn't just the skeptics who are nipping at our ankles saying that, well, you people need to come back down to earth, so to speak,
right.
But all the way up to Washington, who are still refuting this idea that this was nothing more than a weather balloon.
Tom, let me get you to jump in here. What with that? I mean, it's almost darkness the way that Don presents it, because you guys have been fighting this I don't want to say evil, but it is, right?
The dark side.
What keeps you guys going? How many books have you guys authored so far?
Together, 4 books.
4 books.
But prior to Don and me becoming a team in 1998, I think you and Kevin wrote two. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
What keeps you going? Because certainly anybody weaker would, screw this.
Well, for me, I find it's the most interesting UFO case of all time. Besides the import of it, it's just interesting as all get out. It's got a. We're not talking about lights in the sky, which get boring after a very short period of time. We're not talking about somebody's close encounter with nothing beyond that. We're talking about a case that we have uncovered over 600 first and second-hand witnesses. It's a circumstantial evidence case because we don't have a piece of the tailpipe or the dashboard. We don't have a piece of wreckage, so we need to find every witness that we can that is still living that knows something until either the physical evidence is produced or they make their proverbial landing on the White House lawn that cannot be
That's an interesting point. Okay, really quick, show of hands. Stanton and Kathleen, how are you two? Show of hands, who's from Roswell here? 1, 2, that's it? Everybody's from out of town? Oh, there's another Roswellian in the back. Do you guys from Roswell here, do you guys know anybody that was an original witness? That's my point. Isn't that crazy, right? And there were many. And the concern, their latest book is The Children of Roswell. And I remember talking to Don probably 3 years ago. We spent an entire show talking about a very morose subject. And I'll talk about it. I'll mention it. Pretty soon there's not going to be anybody alive at all. And I'm sorry, it's a fact of life. It's the way things go. But pretty soon, there's not going to be anybody, and we've got to keep our foot on the gas, and hence the book, Children of Roswell. What do you think is the most important reason to do it? Obviously, to capture everybody and to document and to have everything saved. That they would remember or recall. I get that part. Mm-hmm. But what's the best part that we would take away from it?
Well, to certainly demonstrate that as the families initially were involved, many of them firsthand, that they too saw and observed and held things in their very hands, but that it superseded even the explanation that came out at that time on July 8th, the weather balloon explanation, and that it continued years thereafter, decades thereafter. We could cite the example of Walter Hott, who was the public information officer, yes, who had dictated by the base commander, Colonel William Blanchard, the very press release that made this an historic fact, that the Army Air Corps on July 8th announced that they had captured an actual flying saucer. And then to sit with his wife, Lorraine, Pete, as she was called, and listen to them both describe how they were receiving phone calls at all hours of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, for 30 years, and voices saying, "You better never talk about what happened down in Roswell in 1947. Another voice would yell, "Halt! You better never talk about what happened back at Roswell." Who would take the time over and over again, over weeks, months, 30 years.
Over something that didn't happen. Right.
That, as Peter Jennings said on his primetime special, within the first minute of his segment on Roswell, he used the word myth 5 times. That's what they're trying to drill into all of us right now. Not only that this was explained away, but now their 5th explanation, as we would say, is becoming that it's just a myth. That it was created by the researchers, by the writers, and that the witnesses were trying to capitalize and seek out fame and fortune, and it's all a bunch of absolute nonsense.
Tom, let me ask you, because he brings up a good point, and you said largely circumstantial. I kind of disagree with that statement. I'll tell you why. Some of the best evidence that you have comes from the military themselves, and that is the press release, the Roswell Daily Record.
I said it's mostly circumstantial.
Do you understand? But that is some really the Halt memo. That's strong stuff. That goes way out of circumstantial in my view.
But that's what our debunkers, our adversaries say. It's a circumstantial case. Their fallback position is, well, show me a piece of, when they say evidence, they mean physical evidence. But we believe that testimony, that's what we have. Testimony has sent people to the electric chair. It all depends upon how credible it is. And we've uncovered over hundreds of witnesses that are credible, all talking about the same thing. They're not talking about a weather balloon. They're not talking about a radar target. They're all talking about something that Don and I put into a framework of this is what happened, when it happened, who was involved. And the witnesses, and we still are getting witnesses, what they're telling us now is it's not anything new, but it's falling within the framework that we established a few years ago. So I meant it in a good way, that it's circumstantial cases are still, if you have corroborating testimony, it's a proof, it's evidence, and if the evidence is convincing, it's proof.
How well oiled is the machine of hiding and disinfo and secrecy? And what I mean by that is, certainly Roswell gave an example of how something can be completely buried in the public eye when it wasn't for a couple of days. It had the opportunity to go out there and, what if we would have had the internet back then? It would be a different story today, right?
Absolutely.
But
Beyond a shadow of a
they
doubt.
were able to literally bury it for decades. And I mean, how strong is that?
For actually one simple reason. Post-World War II, probably the most patriotic time in the history of this country, the military / the government walked on water at that time. Whatever they specifically presented as an official explanation, anything, keep in mind that they couldn't deny that something happened. They had to first build up a straw man, so to speak, and then tear it down. And they did it all within the course of 5 hours, that Tuesday, July 8th. And the press already was demonstrating that they were willing accomplices to the cover-up. And after it faded, after everything calmed down and the base went from lockdown to normal daily activities, as you just stated earlier, Jimmy, it just all faded away, faded to black, so to speak.
Right.
And it wasn't until 30 years later then one of the principal and probably the principal witnesses involved, who Stan Friedman had first interviewed, the late Major Jesse Marcel, the head of intelligence. We say the head of intelligence of the 509 Bomb Group, the most elite unit within the military at that time.
Right.
And as he was dying of emphysema, that he stated to the world that he held pieces of a craft not made on this earth. And that's where it all, again, came into, as far as contemporary times, as to the tracking down of all the witnesses and going back and finding out now which press release was the correct one, the weather balloon or the flying saucer. And I don't have to tell you where all the witnesses stand.
What would have happened, and I want to thank you both for coming on and for all that you do, before we run out of time. What does your stomach just tie up in knots if you stop and think about what if that press release didn't happen? What if they were successful in cutting off the radio station and before that broadcast was ever done, and the Roswell Daily Record never published anything? I mean, does that just freak you out that we were that close to nil?
No, we certainly wouldn't be here tonight.
Well, that's
but
that's exactly the point, isn't it?
Yes.
I would be.
Yeah.
They and we've debated the press release over and over and over again. Was it a local faux pas on the part of the base commander, William Blanchard, or was it orchestrated from Washington, as Don believes? And I guess I'm on the fence, to be honest with you, whether it was a local faux pas or orchestrated. But the thing is that with the media, I'm talking about the major media. Back then you had CBS, ABC, I don't know if NBC was around, but you had a few networks and a few newspapers. They could affect a media blackout of it because the media still considers UFOs, I'm talking about the major media, as a taboo subject. If they talk about it at all, it's usually tongue-in-cheek.
Yep, and they always run the X-Files music.
But just imagine if,
you know what I mean?
But just imagine if the witnesses would have gone to the press first.
Yes.
We wouldn't be sitting here because we'd all be sitting in our homes right now confident that we're not alone.
Yeah, it would have been a whole different game.
George Wilcox, the sheriff of Chavez County, who passed away in 1961. We never got to interview him, but he told his family that one of the biggest mistakes he ever made in his life was calling the air base first. He said he should have called the media to get out on the story, so the story couldn't have been killed.
I want to thank both of you for coming on tonight. Now, what's up next for you? You got a new book coming out?
Another archaeological dig and
that's right.
Talk of certainly revising some of the previous work. But we are still hot on the trail, and we've been discussing witnesses all afternoon again. So,
Don Schmitt and Tom Carey, everybody, give it up. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, Stan Freeman and Kathleen Martin are in the house. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station where the Fader Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Hello, Roswell. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Wow, pretty cool. Sitting to my left, Stan Freeman and Kathleen Martin. Please, everybody. Oh, okay. I'm with you two. First off, thank you again for not only being on the show, but for doing everything that you do. Okay, and thank you for that. And Stanton, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Stanton has his own time zone out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and here he is with us. So I want to start here. Obviously, this is the Roswell Festival, and here we are. We're on Main Street. We're at the museum. We're doing it. But to me, there's the other case for me, and you and I, all three of us have talked about it a lot, and that's Betty and Barney Hill. And back in 1983, 84, I get an Interrupted Journey, get the book, right? I'm a kid. I'm 20 years old. And I pound that book in about 2 days, right? Just pages flying. And I slept with one eye open, for probably a good month. It scared me because the book was so real. And there was something about it when I read it that this was, I want to use the correct word here, the truth. Do you guys follow me? Yeah. I did not in any way go, well, okay. No. The entire story for me rang true. And so therefore you have two things. You have a crazy abduction story, but you also have something that's very terrifying. And then you have the life-changing events that happens with, back then, a biracial couple that did not have to come forward. I cannot imagine how their life changed for them on both a personal level, right, and their community, and the United States and the world that are looking back at them trying to digest what they are trying to tell the world would actually happen. I think it's one of the most extraordinary cases that there is. And Stanton, I'm going to hand it off to you first. Is it because they were so truthful with the terrifying aspects? I mean, the sexual stuff and the other things that had never been talked about ever before were brought forward. Do you think that's what struck at the core of everybody at that time?
My feeling is that it was more the involvement of Dr. Simon, Benjamin Simon. Here we have an outstanding psychiatrist with an incredible record of treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, and we've never had anybody like that involved in most UFO stuff, to say the least. And I think that the fact that he didn't know anything about flying saucers to begin with is very important. But remember, it was not their intention at all to go public. It certainly wasn't his. This is medical information. It was because somebody violated a trust and gave a tape. Well, Kathy, why don't you tell that?
Okay. Somebody violated a trust. Betty and Barney had requested that this information remain confidential, meaning that their identities would not be revealed. Individuals within the UFO community and a number of scientists knew who they were and knew what their story was. They did not want the general public to know this information. There was a violation of confidentiality. A newspaper reporter from Boston, Massachusetts, contacted Betty and Barney. I have the letter that he wrote to them. And he said, I heard about your story, from Laurie D'Alessandro. She's a friend of yours, Betty. He didn't say that, but Betty knew who Laurie was. They were friends. Laurie violated confidentiality. She talked to him. He was one of her neighbors. He wanted Betty and Barney to speak to him about their experiences and to go public. They said, no, we'll lose our jobs, we'll lose our reputations in the community. Barney had been appointed by the governor of the state of New Hampshire to serve on the U.S. Civil Rights Commission State Advisory Committee. Betty was a social worker for the state of New Hampshire. They were civil rights leaders in the state. They certainly did not want to be identified as a couple of kooks. That was a great fear. They were afraid that they would lose their jobs. But the story did go public because that reporter took it to the public, despite their request.
Is looking back in hindsight, Kathleen, is that okay that happened that way? I mean, is it in that? I mean, what if we didn't ever hear their story? You know, do you understand where I'm going with this?
I understand where you're going with it. As a family member who was close to them, who saw the emotional impact that this had, who saw them, highly credible individuals, being debunked, being called kooks. As a family member who saw that pain, I would just as soon not have this story ever told.
How old were you when you first, when Betty told you what happened?
I was 13 years old when Betty and Barney returned home from New Hampshire. The first person that Betty called was my mother, Betty's sister. And she told my mother that she and Barney had had a close encounter with a flying saucer the previous evening, that it was huge, it was low, it was silent. Within 2 days, my family and I drove to Betty's and Barney's house, and I heard the story firsthand, and I saw some of the evidence. There was physical evidence that this had occurred too. There were shiny spots on the trunk of the car that would respond to a compass when a compass was placed over them, meaning that there was a magnetic field around the trunk of a car. As an investigator for the Mutual UFO Network, we have seen this in other abduction cases. The tops of Barney's best-dressed shoes were so deeply scraped that he had to buy new shoes. The dress that Betty was wearing that night was torn in several locations. There was no satisfactory answer for how that could have happened. The top of her zipper at the back of her dress had a 2-inch tear in the stitching. The thick zipper fabric had a 1-inch tear. The hem was torn down on one side. The lining was torn from waist to hemline. Their watches that were working fine that night stopped and never ran again. There was evidence that something had happened, plus the missing time. And in talking about Betty and Barney coming forward, well, the article in the Boston newspaper, and it was actually 5 articles, it ran 5 days in a row, was not accurate. And Betty and Barney's experience in meeting the public was much better initially than they thought it would be. They didn't lose their jobs. And so they decided that they would speak to the public about the sighting itself. And who introduced them at the first time that they spoke at the Unitarian Church in Dover, New Hampshire, but the public information officer from Pease Air Force Base. That UFO had been picked up on 2 radars that night, one in North Concord, Vermont, or a UFO, I don't know that it was that one, and also Pease Air Force Base in Newington, New Hampshire, also picked something up that night.
Can I go back for a second? I think it's important for all of us here in the audience tonight, hearing your emotion right now, to speaking about this. When you were 13, you're still innocent, right? And you also pick up on what's going on with the old people in the room, right?
Right.
What I mean, were you freaked out? And how was Betty? I mean, was she calm, or was she like, you know what, we need to sit down and talk about this with adult talk? And you know what I'm saying? You were 13.
But they didn't know about the abduction part, them being on board inside this vehicle with the strange beings, right?
That's correct. Barney had conscious, continuous recall of observing non-humans looking down at him as he stood in a field using binoculars looking up.
Right.
They did not remember the abduction itself.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's important, that at that time it was an encounter with the UFO, all right,
Right.
that they saw, that was near them, that they saw through the windows there were beings on board.
Right.
But nothing about how they were treated as specimens.
No, yeah, exactly. What I mean is, she knows what her aunt and uncle and her mom and how adults acted. And when adults need to sit down and talk serious in front of the kids or privately away from the kids, you know, and you're picking up on their vibe. And that's, you know, how serious was Betty? Was she scared? Was she nervous? I mean, it was certainly an extraordinary experience, enough for them wanting to talk to you and your mom about this. So, and that's what I want to know. What did you feel and what did you see?
Well, I have to say that Betty was intensely curious. She wanted to know more. She took her first book about UFOs out of the Portsmouth Public Library. We talked about it as a family. Betty and my side of the family were very curious. I immediately developed an interest in astronomy. My father bought a telescope for me, and we'd go out and we'd look at the sky at night. I was interested in satellites. I had never heard that there might be aliens on other planets. I didn't think that there were any populated planets before that time. And as I started to think about how my aunt and uncle were just sort of plucked off the highway, I didn't know they were plucked off at that time, but they were greatly frightened by what had happened. I became frightened. I thought, this could happen to me. This could happen if I'm crossing the street at night.
Right.
And I became frightened about all of it, too. Barney thought that no good could ever come of telling anybody about it. And he was determined that he did not want the public to know. He didn't really want to talk to it with the entire family. He sat down quietly and told my father about observing the non-humans looking down at him. And that information is also in the first letter that Betty ever wrote about it. It was to NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, and she described how Barney had observed figures dressed in black, shiny uniforms. That was September 26, 1961. The incident occurred around midnight between the 19th and into the early morning hours of the 20th. So it was very close in time.
I want to thank you, Kathleen, for continuing this. It's such an important case, and for me, I can't tell you, that book found me in an empty house. There was two books there. Betty Andreessen was the other one, right? And those two books found me in an empty house that I happened to find in a closet, and you can't ignore. Stanton's laughing. I moved into a house that was empty in Pasadena, and I had luggage, no TV, no furniture, nothing. And so I'm walking through this empty house first night, and I walk into one of the bedrooms, and I open up a closet door, and there's two books in this empty 5-bedroom house. 2 books on this top shelf, and I'm like, what are those? And that's what they were. You know? So there you go, and here we are today. Stanton, really quick. First off, thank you. I need a round of applause for Stanton Friedman, please.
That's because I took my tie off.
Stan, how do you do it? What's the secret? I mean, how do you do it? We do so many events all year long. You're television and radio, and you're out there in the research, and you don't stop. Young man, you're on the low side of 80. How do you do it?
No, I will be 82 on the 4 weeks from today.
That's what I mean. I said the low side. I didn't say 86.
Oh.
But
I'll be 82.
I know you're working out, right? How's the ticker?
The ticker's doing fine. The doctor stopped my working out.
What?
I belonged to a gym. I was in the best shape of my life. I had a heart attack, and the doctor said, no. That's it. No, I think what keeps me going is that I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm keeping busy. I'm keeping mentally active because there's a challenge of dealing with people here and all the other places I go. And I think it's one of the mistakes we make. We think life goes until you're 65, and then you settle down into retirement, whatever that's supposed to mean. What it really seems to mean is you get your brain to stop working, to stop growing, to stop thinking.
Right.
And I think it's important that we do keep going. And now I had a good example. Both my parents lived to be 90. So I figure I got 8 more years to go as of a month from now. And but I think there's a lesson to be learned. I just read an article about when people retire a year later than 65, they live longer. For whatever that means, I don't know.
Is that right? Can I write that down?
It was a published article.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yes, and so I think that the moral of the story is, why do you stop automatically thinking, feeling, interacting, going new places? We shouldn't. I think that's the biggest moral of the story, because you've heard of people who, within 2 years of when they retire, they die. Their whole purpose seems to be gone. And I think the body needs purposefulness, if I can make that a word.
It's a word.
So I just keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm getting older. I've lost a step on the way to second base, as they used to say about baseball players. But I am so pleased by the interactions with people. I even enjoy sitting at a vendor's table, believe it or not.
Yes, you know, and now I have to ask the probably the most important question. Without you, and you know some of the early stuff, but certainly Roswell wouldn't be where we are today with the investigations and everything else, and all the other people that have come forward and other researchers, and that you know it is turned into what it is today. And before I ask the audience to appreciate you for that, and we'll do that in just a second, is this, Stanton, what stopped you and made you take notice that this is one of the most important cases ever, and this cannot stay hidden? I mean, obviously it was Jesse Marcel and there was things, but there had to have been something about the case where you stopped you in your tracks. What was that?
Well, I was intrigued more than anything else. I mean, here was a man I had to respect, the intelligence officer. Remember, I'm a nuclear guy for the only nuclear group in the world.
Right.
That intrigued me. And the way in which the television station manager spoke about him, that intrigued me. He obviously respected him greatly. So I thought, maybe we can find out more about this. And look, you get lucky. I called the newspaper here, asked for the editor from 47, long gone. This is in 1978.
Right.
And I said, well, she said, what do you need? I've got these articles that say that the base public information office, I didn't know the base had been closed for years by that time. Closed in like 65. This is 78. I said, a guy named Walter Haut, his name is spelled 4 ways. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Right.
And when the gal says that I'm talking to says, oh, his wife works here. What? I mean, he turns out he's from Chicago. What the hell is he doing here after being at the base as a military guy? So that was lucky. Walter was a tower of strength. He's a big, tall guy, too, incidentally. But Walter had a base yearbook. So now I start with a script, so to speak. I got all these guys. Can we find them? Well, Bill Moore and I found 62 people in a year and a half. And that was before the internet.
Right.
My phone bill was enormous, and so was Bill's. But so it was the challenge in the fact that I'm starting with really special people. Jesse Marcel, Walter Haut, and then gradually as we found more people. How could you let that go?
Well, I mean, did you have any idea with this preliminary, research going on that this was the case that you had unfolded? I mean, did you have any clue?
I didn't really, certainly not at the beginning. I was intrigued. I was excited.
Right.
It wouldn't be surprising, after all, if there are saucers flying all over, and I've been saying that for years, if one of them crashed. I mean, what's the big deal? We have crashes all the time. But I certainly didn't expect that umpteen years later I'd be in Roswell, New Mexico, talking about what happened in 1947. No, I had no idea that was going to happen. Fortunately, people like Don and Tom have come along, and I have to tell you a little story. I don't know whether Don has told this, but he asked me when I was speaking at a college in Chicago, near Chicago. He came to hear me and asked me afterward if I thought there was any more research that could be done on Roswell. And I guess I surprised him by saying, I think there's a ton of research that can be done, but I live back in New Brunswick. I can't afford it. I can't continue to do it. I mean, I'm a long way from Roswell and from the States, and, and so he picked up the challenge. But at least I didn't say to him, nah, it's all done, don't worry about it. I wanted to see more done, but need arms and legs and people ready to do the work. So even at that time, I didn't know where it was going, and there have been stops and turns on the way, So Roswell has become my passion, you could say, I suppose. And I try to make clear that I was not in the military at the time, that this was not an insider kind of thing. People think I must have had a sighting, I must have seen a body, all kinds of presumptions.
You haven't?
No.
Okay.
I haven't seen any aliens, I haven't seen any saucers. I just have evidence. And my answer to people, silly one. Look, I chased neutrons and gamma rays for 14 years. Never saw one. They're real too.
There you go. It's Stanton Friedman, everybody. Kathleen Marden. This is Fade to Black. We'll be back right after this. And who's coming up next, Rita? Larry Holcomb. Joe Bookman. Next.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Sobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our #1 seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99, and you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Good evening, Roswell. Yeah. Man, what a show. Pretty cool when Bryce Zabel does a drive-by, huh? Just hanging in the back. No? Yes?
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Nothing stuns Joe Bookman. Joe Bookman, Larry Holcomb, everybody. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are live from the Roswell Festival, UFO Festival, Main Street, from the museum. How are you guys doing? Is everybody good? Yeah? I'm having a really good time. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I think this is something that needs to be driven home over and over again. Roswell almost wasn't to be, okay? We were that close. And to think about we were that close, and then I have a conversation with Mr. Larry Holcomb. Larry, step up to the mic. Say hi to the world.
Hello. Good evening. Delighted to be here.
Now, Larry and Joe, if you haven't heard this yet, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, okay? So Larry was on the show, it's about a year ago now.
A year.
Yeah, about a year ago.
I don't know. Time passes fast.
Was that one of the great conversations that I know that I've had? That was
of all the 30-some radio shows that I've done, I think that your show was the best, and you got it. You got it.
Here, you know what you get? You get a decoder pen. Now,
how about a bottle of Jack Daniels?
Yeah, we'll do that after the show. Guaranteed. See that cooler? It's chilling right there. Larry, I want you to share with everybody when you had. Okay, let's just back up. There, with Long John Neville and all the media and everything out there, and that I'm convinced that it was never spoken about by anybody. You've got something to share to the world, and why don't you do that for us and tell it, because the story is extraordinary, and if there was somebody out there that was talking about it in 1960, that's a game changer, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's although I had forgotten a great deal of the story, as it came back to me as I was writing my book, UFOs and the Presidents. The fog started to lift, and I remembered the story that I call the Doug Locke story.
Now, who was he?
Doug Locke was a friend when I was in high school. He was an older fellow. Now he seems like a real youngster, but he was probably about 34, 35. And he moved into the little community of Sandston, Virginia, where I was born and raised. And he opened a service station, and I was 17 years old, and I liked girls and fast cars, not necessarily in that order. And Doug, I knew, had been in the Air Force. To make a long story short, he told me about Doug came from a tobacco farm in Southside Virginia. Grew up on a tobacco farm. Very tough living. Doug was about 6'4", weighed about 220 pounds, strong as an ox, could probably knock a charging bull off with one blow. And he went into the Air Force and enlisted in the Air Force after high school. And people made fun of his Southside Virginia accent. Well, a lot of those airmen ended up with a broken jaw, and Doug came before his commanding officer quite frequently. Well, it just so happened at that time, General Curtis LeMay had put out, wanted to start a judo training course for airmen, for pilots, to teach pilots judo. This was brought up to Curtis LeMay by Emilio Bruno, I think was a wrestling champion at the time. LeMay turned it over to General Thomas Power, and Power sent out a letter to Air Force bases around the country that said, we need 24 volunteers to go to the, I forget the name of the school in Japan, to be trained by a very famous judo instructor and come back to the States and become judo instructors for pilots. Well, when Doug's commanding officer saw this, he said, well, I got just a guy. And Doug was selected to be one of these judo instructors. He came back, took the course, came back, and was stationed at Biggs Air Force Base in El Paso. So to sort of drop back, I was 17 years old, had just read two of Major Donald Keyhoe's books, Flying Saucers Are Real, Flying Saucers from Outer Space, and I was taken by Keyhoe's passion. I also saw Keyhoe on the old Armstrong Circle Theater debating the Air Force when his sound was cut off because he deviated from the Air Force.
The script.
The script.
And back then, everything was censored.
And at that point,
you're not allowed to deviate off the script, and they just faded him to nothing.
At that point, I knew that there was a cover-up.
Right.
There was a cover-up in
100%.
place. So, but I was afraid to bring my newfound interest in flying saucers up to Doug Locke. I thought he would say, "Oh, you silly kid, you believe in that stuff." But I steeled myself to it, and I did. The reaction I got wasn't what I thought. He looked at me and he said, and this is 1960, folks. He looked at me and he said, "Larry, it's all true." And I said, "Doug, what do you mean it's all true?" He said, "When I was training pilots at Biggs Air Force Base, pilots came in from all around, bases all around. They told me stories of being chased by saucers, chasing saucers, fantastic stories that scared the hell out of them." And he said these were brave people. They flew in the Second World War. They flew in Korea. These were brave pilots. But what they experienced in the skies over New Mexico and Texas scared the devil out of them. Then he said that a bomber pilot that he trained from Roswell told him about flying alien crashed craft and alien bodies from Roswell, New Mexico to Wright-Patterson or Wright Field, which is now Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This was 1960. I can't recall all of the conversations we had about it, but I know that his description of what the pilots told him, and I've often wondered if this bomber pilot was Pappy Henderson, that what these pilots told him, he related to me in 1960, fits like a glove with what was exposed in 1980. So it's not important that I knew in 1960 that Roswell was very important. I left that out. Roswell had always been, since I was 17 years old, very important in the UFO story or the flying saucer story. I prefer flying saucers, as you know.
I still do.
But that's not important that I knew about Roswell 20 years before any other UFO researcher. What's important is that the story that was told to me by Doug Locke in 1960 is a perfect match for what was discovered in 1980.
Joe, when you hear that and you know about the silence of and the success of the silence and the blackout of Roswell from 1947 to 1978, 1980, it was a great campaign. But to hear this story from Larry about somebody that was in the Air Force that he had known that could make a direct reference to Roswell in 1960 when nobody else did in the media or otherwise. It was a dead story. How does that make you feel? What do you think about that?
Well, I'm sure there were people talking about it in those circles from the 50s on. There was a mention of a crashed saucer retrieval. They didn't say Roswell. In one of the books, and I think it was Frank Edwards, but correct me if I'm wrong, where it was mentioned just in passing.
That's right.
One sentence.
That's right.
But listening to your story reminds me of 1974. I'd been fooling around with lasers and holograms and got an invitation to go visit Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I was living in New Albany, Indiana, and I won the Indiana State Science Fair, got an award from the Air Force, among others, and the Air Force award included a trip to Wright-Pat. And I mentioned that to a friend of mine, Pete Boyce, who was a private pilot and a radio station engineer and a still good friend. Just saw him a couple of weeks ago out in Indiana. And Pete said, well, if you're going to Wright-Patterson, ask to see the UFO in Hangar 18. So that was 1974. And I did. The two Air Force guys, I can remember them driving me up the interstate to Dayton. It was a big deal because interstates were new. I'd never been that far away from my parents before. I remember asking them if I could see the UFO in Hangar 18. I don't remember anything else of that trip.
Yeah,
Told you that story before.
Yes, you have, and
Right.
it's great. What do you? I'm going to ask you directly. What do you think happened? I mean, was this some kind of Men in Black mind control?
I don't know. I don't remember most of 1974, actually. I wasn't doing drugs, and I wasn't interested in girls and fast cars. It was more White Castles and radio stations.
Right.
My first job in radio, actually, was doing the board from midnight to 6 for the old Herb Jepko nightcap show. Are there any nightcaps in the room? Where are the nightcaps? 90 nightcaps. And when Herb was removed by Mutual, they replaced him with Long John Nebel and Candy Jones. So I did the Long John Nebel and Candy Jones show until Long John died. And certainly Long John was talking about these stories.
But see, this is the thing about Long John, and for those, just show of hands, who knows who Long John Nebel is? Watch this.
Just the radio people, you, me, and that's...
Without Long John, there would be no me, there's no Art Bell, there's no Nori, there isn't any Clyde Lewis.
No What Goes Bump in the Night radio.
That's right. And he broadcasted from the mid-50s until 1974. 76 when he died. And then his wife, Candy, took over the show for a couple of years.
Just a couple of weeks.
Oh, a couple of weeks.
But and you know who they replaced them with? Mutual, in an act of desperation, found this totally unknown guy out of Miami who was in debt to the mob up to his eyeballs. And he wanted out of Florida. They brought him to Washington, D.C., and that was Larry King.
Yes.
And that was the Larry King show, late night radio, and then got on CNN, and we all know Larry.
But I have gone back and I have listened to, believe it or not, every 5.5 hour Long John Nebel program that's archived. I've listened to hundreds of them. I've listened to interviews with not only Kehoe, but and Kenneth Arnold multiple times, and Kehoe multiple, Arthur C. Clarke, on and on and on. These long broadcasts. All the mentions in the world of Kenneth Arnold or Manziel in Tennessee, and all of the famous cases up to that point. Not once on any Long John Nebel program did Kehoe or anybody else mention Roswell. It didn't happen. And we're talking about a table of 5 people with 5 open microphones that were the publishers of Saucer Smear and Flying Saucer Review and all of these books and magazines and the experts of the day. There was never a mention of Roswell. Go back and listen. Why? I'm fascinated with those old cases. They wanted to talk about it. They talked in depth on Nazi technology. It was all there. No Roswell. It didn't exist. How could it not exist on Long John Nebel's show for 20 years? But it didn't. And then when you turn around and hear this from Larry, from somebody referencing the case in 1960 when Kehoe didn't or anybody else, it didn't exist. Not Hynek. It wasn't.
Well, the UFO community at that time didn't take crashes seriously. You know, they looked at the idea of a crash was something they didn't want to even talk about at conventions in those years, as I understand the history. Also, I'm wondering if you've really listened to everything Nebel did, or how much of the archive is lost. You surely couldn't have listened to every.
No,
hour.
It was out for 20 years. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if somebody wants to come forward and has Long John Nebel mentioning Roswell, okay, steak dinner at Morton's.
Me too.
Okay.
And
All
where
right?
is that archive for those of us who are now going to go
It's
there
a
and
new
listen?
thing. It's going to be huge. It's called YouTube. It's going to be big. It's going to be big.
Nice.
You should check out the
I don't
internet.
know, I think you got to travel to New York.
No,
the Museum of Radio and TV.
no. The internet is going to be big, Joe. You should
YouTube
check
has
this
the
out.
radio shows.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, you can get a laptop, which is a computer that folds. It's amazing technology.
What will they invent next, I wonder?
Jimmy, by the way,
yes, sir.
I have done.
Joe, you know I love you.
I have looked I've tried to get Doug Locke's Air Force records. Unfortunately, from a number of sources, records of Air Force personnel at that time, from that time period, were destroyed in a fire, a major fire where the records were stored. I have checked on the judo end of the thing through Curtis LeMay, and that's a fact. That's done. Thomas Powell ran it. That part checks out. What I can't find is the timeline for Doug Locke, except that he was involved in an asbestos. He died of asbestos poisoning and sued John Manville. I found the records, so I know his birth date and what have you, but I don't have his Air Force records.
Well, when you do, you know the radio show to come forward with. Larry Holcomb, everybody. UFOs and the Presidents. Joe Bookman, voice of disclosure. Joe Bookman. Everybody, listen, keep the applause going, because coming up next we have Yvonne Smith and Ben Hansen right now. Come on up. Thank you, guys. I would normally run music here, but we're not. Yes, ma'am. Oh, picture time. I got to talk at the same time, honey. Okay? All right. Normally I would take a picture. You guys want to come over here? We'll take a picture in real time. I'll keep talking. And I'll throw T-shirts out. This is...
I'll do the, I'm running for the Utah State Senate. Bookman for Senate 14. You want to vote Libertarian this year, right?
Vote Bookman. Let's go. Vote Bookman.
Yeah, more tomorrow morning at 10.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Larry. You can go see Larry over at the museum. All right, coming up next, Ben Hansen, Fact or Faked, everybody. One of the great regression therapists in our little family, the one and only Yvonne Smith. Great author, too. Yvonne Smith. You know, like 3 years ago, before Coast, before History Channel, I started this little radio show. I called up Yvonne. You know, we're neighbors over in L.A. And she goes, "Who are you? Who are you?" You know what? I'll help you out, young man. I'll do your show. That was 3 years ago. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, time is going by way too fast, Jimmy.
Absolutely. How great is the festival for you guys so far? Is this pretty amazing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially leading up to next year, the 70th anniversary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, when I was on the morning program here in Roswell this morning, and I'm going to say this. The city of Roswell is one of the coolest cities I have ever been to, with real people, and it's absolutely. I give it up for Roswell.
Yes, for Roswell.
Yvonne, I would like to talk about Roswell, but I kind of want to talk about Coronado. Can we talk about Coronado?
Absolutely.
That book. Who here has read her book, Coronado?
Oh,
okay. Hey, there you go. All right. That book scared the bejesus out of me. I mean, it's got some pretty. I mean, it's not only the eyewitness stuff, but it's a hotel. That's creepy, right?
Oh, yes.
You know, adjacent rooms, creepier, right? Multiple cases happening at the same time. Creepiest, you know. Share with everybody what Coronado is about, because it is an extraordinary book. And you know what? It's also like 1,800 pages with small type. Have you seen that?
I've got it. It's in my lineup of things to read, but it is a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
You know, the other side of my bookshelf is like collapsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this happened, Jimmy, in March of 1994 on Coronado Island. San Diego, California. How many here are familiar with the Del Coronado? Oh
Beautiful
my gosh. So
wooden hotel.
It's a beautiful, historic.
Wooden. You got to say wooden.
Wooden, historic. And it's haunted by Kate. Oh gosh, I forgot her last name. Kate Morgan. Right, Kate Morgan. My son back here, Brent, and I spent the night in Kate Morgan's room, and I was researching for the book. But now they have to add alien abduction to their haunting at Del Coronado. So it was about a dozen people from my support group, CERO, Close Encounter Resource Organization, where they all caravaned down there because it was basically in my backyard. As Jimmy said, we're in Southern California. I was the MC of the conference, and it was the conference was sponsored by the Triad company who was backed up by Robert Bigelow, the millionaire who's very interested in the UFO subject. I've known him for over 20 years. And so I had the opportunity to not only lecture throughout the country with Triad, with Dr. John Mack, Bud Hopkins, Dr. David Jacobs, but I was asked to MC this particular conference at the Del Coronado. So my whole group caravan down there. They thought it was going to be a great weekend. They're going to meet all the researchers and other experiencers coming in from other states.
Plus, let me jump in. It's one of the most beautiful places in America, and we've got some beautiful places here. But this island, and on the peninsula of San Diego, you have the combination of perfect weather, perfect people, perfect hotel, perfect beaches, perfect food. You go there for a perfect time. And if you're driving down there, you're excited because you know what's about to happen.
You're very excited. And I'm laughing because he's telling me perfect time, perfect weather. That's what we all expected. So we get down there, and there's Secret Service swarming the entire island. And so a couple of my CERO members are so paranoid. Oh, my God. They're here for us. They're gonna take us.
Men in black everywhere. Yeah.
They're gonna take us. So then we find out that then President Clinton was going to be on the island visiting his friend Lawrence Lawrence, who was the ambassador to Switzerland at the time, and so there was Secret Service. I'm telling you, everywhere, and it was the strangest weekend because here I had this big UFO Triad conference, Yvonne Smith, and they're walking around with their earpieces and their sunglasses. They all look the same. And they knew we were going to be there. They go and they canvass the whole area. And what's really strange, Jimmy, I just found out recently, you know how when they canvass an area when the president's going to come, they will move events. They will move people. President Obama was going to an island in Hawaii for a vacation a couple of years ago. There was a wedding happening at the same resort, and they moved the wedding.
I think I heard that, yeah.
Well, you know what? They didn't move the UFO conference. They knew we were there, obviously, when they canvassed the area with the hotel, and we were able to have the conference the same time the president was there.
Interesting.
I found that it gave me chills. So during the entire weekend, people, my CERO members, were telling me they weren't feeling well. One woke up with blood on his pillow. The other one woke up feeling very flu-like symptoms, and that's a symptom of being abducted. You feel very ill, very achy, feverish. I mean, I wasn't putting this together, Jimmy, at the time because I was so busy trying to be the MC and keeping everybody on schedule. And it wasn't until weeks later, they called me. I started doing a couple sessions. This couple that stayed in the Village Inn, which is another historic hotel near the Del Coronado. It's an outlying hotel. The Del Coronado is very expensive, so they were staying in outlying hotels. I was at the Del Coronado, but he and his wife had experiences following the Coronado incident. I show my PowerPoint. He had a huge triangular-shaped bruise on his arm after.
Yeah, I've
Coronado.
seen the picture. I've seen the picture.
So it's, there's so much detail to this case. It's hard to explain it in just a few minutes. But I tried to be as detailed in the book. I did all of the regressions. I was doing regressions.
What do you think? Really quick before we run out of time.
Yeah.
What do you think ultimately happened?
Well, after going through the regressions, studying this entire case, the alien beings obviously knew we were going to be there, and they were ready for a huge operation because the abductees, my serial members, they described a large ship. They would say, this is the largest ship I have ever been in.
Right,
and it was multiple levels for different operations and different procedures. So they were prepared. And they knew we were there. Now, I did receive a couple of other emails from 2 other people who told me, I think I was on the island at that time.
And what about the Secret Service aspect of this? Do you think that there was a connection? I mean, they were there. I mean, did they know? Did they see anything?
That's the ultimate question. Now, I was told that 2 of the Secret Service who are the closest to Clinton were taken. Now, I have no way to confirm this.
Wow.
Unless unless they right out tell me. But I put it in the book because I thought, okay, for what it's worth, this is what I was told. I can't divulge the source.
Right.
But, there's no way I can confirm it.
I'm gonna give you a little tip. Ben and Hillary. Close. Tight.
Well, she might be our president, so let's see what we can do, Ben.
I want to thank you, Yvonne, for all that you do, and you're one of the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.
Ben, tomorrow night. Okay, look, I've told this story enough. I've taken a lot of time on the air. I'm not going to repeat it tonight. I went over this with Ben. There was an extraordinary mass sighting out in at Joshua Tree, and there were contact in the desert. Okay, really quick, what's your name? Molly. Were you part of the sightings with all of us that night? Both of you. Was that I was behind you? Okay, was that the most insane thing ever? Okay. Now I'm so, you know what? After the show, will you guys come up and let's talk tonight? Is that okay? Let's mutually drink together because I'm still drinking after that. Now, anyway, so Ben, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Right? So I was telling Ben our story because there's Rita right there. So you saw Rita that night too, right? It was an insane thing to see. You're going to be doing night vision tomorrow night right here in Roswell. Do you need me to help you juice it up and maybe make some action happen?
Well, what's really weird is I do a lot of these sky watches and different expos and conventions, and there is something I don't know what to think about the whole group energy thing and people sitting there calling things down. I don't know what to think of that, but I will say that there have been
we weren't calling anything, brother. Were we calling anything? We were. These things were playing bumper pool.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say, though. There is something to be said about a certain energy. See, because half of the conventions I go to are ghost hunting.
Right,
okay?
right,
I do the
right,
ghost
right,
hunting
right.
stuff.
Of course.
And then the other half would be the UFO things. And when we go to ghost hunting stuff, there's an energy that a certain group will bring. And you could be sitting in one location and it'll be, forgive the pun, but dead, like all night, nothing happening.
Sure.
And then you get your next group in, and they're all energetic, and stuff is literally flying off the wall.
Right.
Objects moving. So I don't know, but it seems like what you guys experienced.
It was truly nuts. But I'm gonna back you up on this one thing. I've never seen sightings on demand like that. Like we're there to have it happen, and then boom. I see a planet move, whoa, right? Well, I think there has to be a
Not a
connection
coincidence,
of the vibe that we had, because how many people are at Contact? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people, all focused, running around. So could that have something to do with it? And they just wanted to wink at us and say, "Hey, okay, It might have been something like that. I don't know, but it certainly seemed in 15 minutes that I was there. I was only there for 15 minutes. What I saw in that 15 was just crazy. So you're going to be doing this tomorrow night.
Yep.
Where at?
It's here in town. It's just at the Cielo Grande Amphitheater, which is like 2 miles out of town. So anyone who's nearby or here, just flip over your programs and the map's on the back. So go watch the parade. We start at 10, so I'll be out there probably munching on some potato chips waiting for you.
Okay, what kind of equipment do you have? Do you have the Gen 2, Gen 3?
We've got Gen 3 filmless, which is kind of like the Gen 4. We've got the black and white phosphor tubes, which are kind of the latest and greatest. And I hope to have at least 2 TV screens, monitors set up, and then we'll have a bunch of handheld stuff that you guys can try out yourself. So bring your energy. Because whatever you had at Contact of the Desert, I want to capture it on film here. We're going to be filming, and that's my whole goal, is to get this stuff on film so that people who aren't there can say, yeah, there is something to this.
Okay, well, Rita and I will be there tomorrow night. I don't know. I don't know what I saw. I don't know if it was us, if it was them, if it was government technology that they're not talking to us about. I don't know. I don't know. I can only repeat accurately what I saw, but it was certainly a life-changing thing. And Rita and I have had our sightings. How many people have seen something strange in the sky? Okay, the whole room, right? Okay, you know what? The audience, the world doesn't know how many. How many people have seen something strange in the sky? Yay! Let me hear it. Okay.
Hooray for strange things.
Right. Now, out of that, when was it random? Like, you weren't out there calling them down. Was it just a random event? Let me hear you. It was random, right? This is something where I went out with Rita. How many people were out there? 150 on the cliff? 150 of us, right? 150 people. Another 3,000 behind us, right? And I walk out. I'm there for 10 seconds, and I look up, and this planet moves. Like on cue. That was different for me. It's different when, you're going out and you see something strange in the sky. That's a random event, and, Travis knows about random events, right? Okay, it's a random event. It's a random thing. It's another thing if Travis went out there and was calling them down. That's an extraordinary thing for me to witness. I can't explain it away. I want to thank both of you. So we'll see you tomorrow night, Ben.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow night. Yvonne, the best.
Thank you so much, Jimmy.
You guys are the very best. This is Fade to Black. We are live from the festival in downtown Roswell. We're going to take a quick break, and I will be right back after this short thing. We're going to take a break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hey, I'll make you a deal. Give me 60 seconds, and I'll give you directions to the Fountain of Youth. Okay, I'm joking. Well, kind of joking. No fountains, but youth, I got. Nature's Youth, and their premier anti-aging product, Nature's Youth RSF. With your sensible diet and exercise plan, Nature's Youth RSF can help you look and feel better. RSF is an all-natural amino acid supplement that supports your body to naturally increase HGH levels without any synthetic hormones. And elevated HGH levels can contribute to increased energy, improved libido, reduced body fat, and improved exercise capacity. Let's be honest, who doesn't want to look and feel younger? Visit the newly designed website at naturesyouth.com or call 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923, and like them on Facebook, and you'll be included in contest and exclusive offers. What a deal. Oh, speaking of deals, my time's about up. 800-333-6923 or naturesyouth.com. Who needs a fountain anyway? Call today.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall. And it's out of here.
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
You know, I've always wanted to say this. Good morning, Roswell. Yeah? Good evening. I just had to. I had to. No introductions needed, but the audience can't see what you guys can see, so I will just say it now. Please welcome to Fade to Black, our good friend, once again, Mr. Travis Walton.
Thank you, thank you.
You know what? You know, Travis, I'm just going to thank you right now from the beginning. Every time that I've asked you to come on the show, no matter what, you've always been there for us, and you've always got a great message, and you are a beacon of light for everybody in this family of ours. So for that, my friend, I've got to give it up and say thank you so much for everything that you have done for the last, it's going to be 40 years. Travis Walton, everybody.
Yeah,
I know.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's a crazy.
It's an honor to be here.
It's a crazy thought, but here we are today, and I want to kind of, because I watched your reaction. Travis was sitting here in the front row. I watched your reaction to that comment that I made. I'm not going to apologize for it because it's true. Yours was not something that you asked for, right? It would be different if you went out and asked for it, and then the response comes. That's a different situation. But it was a true random event in your life. And if you, looking back, do you think it was random?
Well, I think these things are kind of random to the person that's perceiving them. But I don't think it's so random on the part of the aliens.
Right.
People think, oh, I got lucky and spotted something. I think they're way too smart for that. I keep referring back to the idea that the skeptics say, well, if there's anything to this, they would just land on the White House lawn and they'd all be out in the open. But I make the point that with that level of technology, they would be capable of doing everything they're doing here and remain completely cloaked, completely clandestine.
Right.
I mean, they've got the power to erase memories and all that kind of stuff. They're not
erase us.
They're not working too hard at that.
Right.
So I think that these sightings are actually deliberate. They're planned on the part of the aliens, and only to a specific degree. Not such a provable thing that it's going to be the equivalent of disclosure, but just enough to create certainty in the mind of the person who experienced it. For my conference, I had an annual conference commemorating my event the last couple of years, and I made up a T-shirt that said, for those who refuse to believe, no amount of evidence is ever enough. For those who experience it, no more proof is necessary. And I think that's the alien agenda.
Well, okay, so let's stay right there, my friend. Last month, you were on with us out of Contact on Friday night. Saturday night, everybody, I'm going to throw Travis and all of our friends under the bus. Travis and I had dinner, okay, for George Norrie's birthday party. And later on that night, the party ended at 9 o'clock. Later on that night, all hell broke loose in the skies over at Contact in the desert. Did you happen to see anything? Were you fortunate enough to go outside and see anything in the skies?
Well, I avoided it because I spoke to somebody who was a sensitive and knew that this was coming. And
interesting.
It has been.
Well, why did you avoid it?
It's been a pattern. I don't know. It's just.
I know it's personal.
I know.
I mean, go ahead, everybody. You can laugh. It's like Travis didn't want to take any chances, so to speak, and I can respect that. But so you didn't see any of that, but it goes back to address exactly what we're talking about here, which is things aren't random. And they probably knew about Contact in the desert. They've probably been to the previous 3. And maybe it was a wink and a nod back at us. But what do you think about that when that's a city, 29 Palms is right there, the marine installation, and here these lights come along for everybody that are very hard to explain.
Absolutely, but certainly they know a lot more about what's going on down here than people might expect. I mean, if the NSA knows where every cell phone is, certainly the aliens do, and probably with a little bit more capacity to tinker with what's picked up,
right?
Or if you do get a picture they didn't quite intend, they can affect that to whatever degree they need to.
What do you think about Roswell and the way that the city here and the community, the businesses, top to bottom, have embraced, and that's the correct word here, has embraced what most communities would choose to ignore and would not want to confront? But it's different here.
Well, there are a few other communities that embrace it, and much to their benefit. And I think that it's kind of like my situation. I tried to run away from it, and that's not going to work.
Right.
You can run, but you can't hide. So you may as well embrace it. And what happened. And so Roswell has become one of the foundational events in this process that I believe is going on to accustom us to the reality of this.
And why? I hate to say this, but the whole White House lawn thing bugs me. But then we have this incident over at Contact in the desert, other places too where this has happened, and it's virtually the same thing. But even if a skeptic was there, or somebody that is in denial was there at Contact in the desert to see what we had seen that night, they would still say, you know what, you guys are imagining things. I don't know if the White House lawn thing would necessarily work, even though it's what they say it would take.
Yeah, but, like I said, for those who refuse to believe, no amount of evidence is enough.
Why is that? I just don't understand it, and it's frustrating.
Well, it's bias. People are making a serious mistake when you're ruled by what you choose to believe rather than what the evidence forces you to believe.
Well, and in your case, let's do lie detector tests. Well, that didn't work, right? And everything else started to come in play with you guys, but they couldn't get anybody to change their story or to flip or to. But that wasn't enough either.
The standard of proof, the level of evidence required just shifts when it comes to alien and UFOs. Dr. Harder made the point that if 6 people attested to a fact that they had witnessed a murder, open and shut. There's a conviction right there. 6 people with lie detectors on top of that passed polygraph tests. And, people quibble about all kinds of silly things that, couldn't possibly explain it away, but when people are desperate to disbelieve something, they'll grab onto the flimsiest thing to justify that disbelief.
Will we, and I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and you've always been here for us. Do you think we'll see another film? Do you think will there be a remake?
Yeah, I think there will be, and it's inevitable. I've already been in discussion with another of major producers who are interested in doing that. But I'm going to stick to my guns about staying truer to what really happened. I understand that in order to translate real life events to a dramatic movie, there's certain things that have to be done. And there's legitimate artistic license, and then there's things that go beyond that. So I'm going to stick to telling it as accurately as possible, because I've gotten hundreds of emails from people who say that's what they want to see.
Yeah, and it's okay to take certain liberties because we all like a good action flick. There's no doubt about that. But this is not fiction, so it needs to be dealt with. Is that something that you are demanding on from the word go, that you are involved and you have the right to dictate how the script and the story is?
Well, generally, once you sign your rights away, they can do what they want with it.
Right.
But, I made it clear from the start that that's what, in the discussions I've had so far, that's what I always, that's the bottom line, is to make it more accurate. And that discouraged some really powerful people, but I'm okay with that. It's going to happen eventually, and I'll stick to my guns to try to make it more accurately. I've been collecting the emails from people who expressed interest, and I'm wondering I'll bind all these together and take them to the studio and say, see, that's what they're really wanting.
As you should. Travis Walton, everybody. Thank you, Travis,
Thank
for
you.
everything. Travis Walton. All right, let's see. Where are we on time here? Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a break, because coming up next, I need some extra time with this young man, the one and only Daryl Sims. Daryl Sims, come on up.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is #1. Are you ready for your life change? change? Let the tea help you. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie McDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black, live from the Roswell UFO Festival, Main Street, the Roswell Museum. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great show it's been so far. Pretty cool to see all of your favorites, right? Just like, you know, right in a row. Pretty cool, isn't it? But this guy here, Daryl Sims, one of my favorites, one of my best, one of my good friends. Please give it up for Mr. Daryl Sims, the alien hunter. Daryl, always causing trouble.
Not that you know of.
You know, the question is, are you packing right now?
Oh, yes.
See, that's the thing. You know, you don't know with Daryl. You know, he dresses in black, he's got the hat. You know, he's probably got some crazy badge. But you're out there doing it. Thank you so much. What do you think of the festival so far?
I love the festival. I've been here for over 20 years speaking. Been here with the board for over 20 years. Love it. Love the people. High energy. The people dedicated. These are all volunteers. And then people come here every year in droves. And if anybody come back and see me for 20 years in a row, you need some medication.
So Daryl today. It's my first time here at the festival, and this is a big building, the museum, and there's catacombs here. You know, it's like the movie Spinal Tap. For those that have seen Spinal Tap, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, but Daryl today, he's like, no, Jimmy, you got to go here, you got to go around here, let's go over here. I'm just like, he knows it like the back of his hand, and that's a crazy building over there. But 20 years, huh? Wow.
Yeah, you'd think they'd get used to me by now, but it's weird.
Now, okay, let's just talk some straight talk. Roswell is certainly unique for a lot of reasons, and I agree and disagree with a lot of my friends and coworkers on this stuff. But I think it's one of the best documented. I don't think it's circumstantial. I think there's lots of hard evidence and eyewitness testimony here. But what if there would have been, or is there, something a step further? Contact. What if there was an abduction? What if there was another ship that we don't know about? What if there was another form of contact here with this case that we don't know about? Or is there something that we don't know about?
There is something you may not know about.
Fly a mission.
I'm happy to tell you for the first time.
That's what I'm talking about.
I haven't told anybody.
Okay, let's go.
I met a witness, two witnesses. One of them several years ago, and I was in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where I lived for 13 years, and everybody said, "Yay!" But it wasn't important. So 13 years, and I'm with this friend of mine. He says, "Well, why don't you go look at some UFOs or something?" I said, "What are you talking about? This is hot. It's Alamogordo. What UFOs?" He said, "The witnesses." And I said, "You don't even know anything about you. What are you at? Why are you saying you're an insurance guy?" He said,
really?
"The guy right there in the picture on my desk." I said, "What about him? That old aircraft and that old what?" He said, "That's the guy who was supposed to fly the bodies out of Roswell." I said, "What are you talking about? You're not a UFO. What are you?" He said, "That's the guy." I said, "Where's he at?" And he said, "Right over here in La Luz." That's what's his address. He said, "He'll never talk to you." I said, "They all say that, but they all do." Long story short, I went over.
Got to turn my chair around here and focus my attention this way. Okay, go ahead. Don't stop.
So I go over and meet the guy. I'm in a three-piece suit. It's about 112 degrees out there, and he's standing on his little Corvette, looking at me, sneering because I'm not supposed to be there. And I finally looked at him and said, "You know, that's the worst car they ever made." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "That's the worst driving car there ever was." I said, "It's like driving a tank." I was in the military, it's like a tank. He said, "You really have seen a Corvette Stingray back in the 60s, hadn't you?"
Yeah, right.
And I said, "Yes, sir." Long story short is he says, "Well, let's go inside. You want some tea?" And I hate tea. "Yes, sir, I love tea." Went inside, and he finally says, "Are you going to ask me about Roswell or not?" And I said, "Well, only if you want me to." And
how old was he, Daryl?
This guy was fairly old. I mean, I'm older than dirt, and he's a little bit older than I was.
That's pretty old.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay.
So I said, "Well, what do you know about Roswell?" He said, "I was supposed to fly the bodies to Carswell." And I said, "I understand somebody did." And he said, "It wasn't me." And I said, "I know that." But he said, "I was the first one chosen for it." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, I told him I wasn't going to do it." And I said, "Listen, I was in the military, like the top secret clearance. You don't go tell your commander, 'I'm not going to do it.'" I said, "At best, it's Article 15, but more than likely it's called mutiny. You're going to go to jail, buddy."
Right.
He says, "Well, I told him I wouldn't do it." And I said, why would you say that?" He said, "Look, one day we announced we found a flying saucer. The next day, it disappeared. It doesn't exist. What might happen to the pilots that flew the bodies?" He said, I don't care if I'm not going to go down like that." So he said, "I didn't fly, but my buddy did." I said, "Will he talk to me?" And he said, "Never." And I said, "They said the same thing about you." I said, "They all talk eventually. You just got to get the right person asking questions." And we talked, and he brought out stacks and stacks of pictures and photographs. Stuff. I couldn't believe it. It was stuff right out of the 40s.
What did you see?
I saw aircraft, no bodies or anything like that, because he did not. I mean, he's like me and many other soldiers back then, very loyal, not going to take any pictures or steal anything, but they should have. And I said, "Okay." So we talked for a while, and he gave me his information. I left. Shortly thereafter, I met another individual. This is, I think, going to rattle it. And the lady told me, and you say, "Well, why do you believe her?" Because she's a relative of mine. Absolutely would never, ever, doesn't like UFO stuff at all, and told me a story that straightened my hair and supported my thesis about Roswell that I'll tell you about in a minute, that I think it happened differently, what we think. Anyway, she said, my boss, at the time, told us a story, and I said, "Well, tell me all about it." She said, "I can only tell you this if you will never divulge anything about the story, because Until I get permission, I can't. I said, I agreed, but I have it all on tape. I got recorded the whole thing. So the bottom line is that the boss was present when the announcement was made, we have a flying saucer. He was in the room. So I said, you're a secondhand witness to the fact that he stated all the stuff, but that's all we have. She said, pretty much. And I said, okay. So I recorded all that, got all of it and everything. And so I listened to her story, listened to this guy's story. And my thesis of Roswell is this. It wasn't that the aliens were drunk and can't fly UFOs very well. Oh, let's bounce one off of here and we'll land over here. And, that's not what happened. Well, they were flying and radar did all this weird stuff to them. Really?
Right.
Okay. If you need that, that's good. I got some medication for you. That's not what happened. It's not they can't drive or any of these things. I said, I used to be in the intelligence business, ex-CIA for 2 years in covert operations. This is an intelligence operation. Forget the UFO thing for just a second. Just think of it like an intelligence operative would. What really happened? Forget the flying saucer stuff. Just the facts only. 2 ships crashed, two different locations. Why don't they land on the White House lawn? Because you will never trust them, ever. Anybody see the movie V? You'll never trust them. It's never going to happen. You won't. They land, something going on. There's something really secretly going on with them. Nobody will ever trust them. However, we're so smart.
When you say nobody, do you mean us or Washington? Who's
us?
In general,
most of us have got enough conspiracy in us. We're not going to buy the fact that they landed and they're here to save the planet, fix the ozone hole,
right,
and a few other things they haven't done in 6,000 years.
But what about why would there need to be trust? I mean, let me ask you this, and Daryl and I have had a lot of candid, long conversations over the years, so I'm not afraid to go there. Well, a little bit, but is this? They haven't done anything yet. We're still here. You and I are talking on the air right now. If they could have, or if they wanted to, it would have already been done. It would have been done 10,000 years ago, 100,000. Right. So then, why are we worried about trust?
Because people in the UFO.
I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the UFO people, UFO world, and people in general. If you just hand them carte blanche something, the Russians want to say, I think we'll surrender and become your best friends tomorrow. I don't trust Putin.
Right.
My wife's half Russian. I don't trust the Russians either.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
I trust her, but only because she's bigger than me. No, not really.
Well, you and I are in the same boat.
Yeah.
Look, Rita's laughing.
Oh, boy, I know. You just got to watch them.
Oh, did you see that? Did everybody see Rita glare at me?
Man, like the black lightnings of death.
Woof, woof. I felt it, too. You saw it. I felt it.
Right on my neck, right there. Look, 2 little bite marks right there.
Man. It's hot in here. It's hot.
I suspect that what happened, okay, in my opinion, this was an intelligence operation, strictly from the UFO point of view, in the military and the whole 9 yards. If you want to find out UFOs landed at the only nuclear base in the world, Roswell. Well, they're obviously, most people would think they're spying. They want to know.
Makes sense.
They want to figure out what's happening to the planet or whatever whopper they want you to believe. The point is, it was here. That's a vital, important issue. But do you think the General Nathan Twining is going to tell them, oh, let me tell you about the UFO and the nukes we got over here. I'll tell you all about that. It's not going to happen. How can you get information from General Nathan Twining and these other people in the top slots?
Right.
If you're an alien,
right.
You don't.
Right.
You don't land on the White House lawn. They're not going to tell you anything. Nothing. Zilch. However, if you bump a couple of UFOs and crash, and it doesn't matter how many of your guys die. They're all toasters anyway. We got 1 million more just like them. But if all you need is one of them to live. Imagine the entity that lived is a tape recorder, a living, walking, fourth-dimensional tape recorder that can download any information in your head if you're next to him.
Yeah, data storage.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's not an abductee or contactee in the world that doesn't know that.
Right.
If they don't know it, You're not an abductee.
Right,
you know what
right.
you're talking about.
Okay.
So, UFO crashes, not because they were drinking that night, having a big party, but because it was planned. So, now, who's smart?
Yeah, but if we capture the UFOs, we're in charge.
You just got hoodwinked, hook, line, and sinker. UFO crashes, one of them survives, the other one's out there laying there squalling or whatever it does, and you got one. So you take this thing, you fly to get the bodies, and do all this, fly the bodies over to here in the Carswell, and then fly it to Wright Pat and everything. Got the little guy sitting there, and then you walk over and set the top man from the military-industrial complex right down in front of him because you don't have a clue what he's capable of. And he's fixing to download all the information out of your head, and he didn't have to tell him anything because he just got it from the top. It was the best intelligence operation I have ever seen, and they won hands down. Within a short period of time, in my opinion, the military finally figured that out and said, nobody goes near that guy anymore unless you got an IQ of about 20.
Right.
Stay away from him.
Right.
Feed him some ice cream or something. Tell him he's an alien from another world. But the fact is, we got robbed big time. That's how they got our information.
If that is the case, what happened with the information in either direction? A, the loss, and B, the acquiring of it.
The only way I can answer that question is this is almost surreal because we had a mass abduction of 8 people in 2 states and several cities in Houston, Texas, December 8th, 1992 and December 11th. 2 nights, same people, 2 nights, 2 different. Amazing case, and we actually have photographic filmed evidence of the possibility of the craft, which is, are you ready for this? An engineer gave me the information, by the way, one of my abductees, with the film. 50 miles thick, 600 miles across.
Where's their planet?
They don't have one.
What? Say that again?
They don't have a planet.
No, how big?
Oh, that. Okay. The craft was guesstimated by the engineer 50 miles thick, 600 miles across. And I told my abductee, he looked at me and said, kind of tough to swallow, huh? And I said, a bit. Yeah. And he says, I thought you'd say that, so I brought the video. And then he did. And I fell over.
What'd you see?
I saw a massive, whatever it was, craft, circular craft, between the Earth and the Moon, filmed by somebody in Japan during the time of our mass abduction. Somebody independently in Japan was filming that way, and apparently filmed the craft that our old small craft taking our abductees to that location.
When was this? The mass abduction.
The mass abduction was an abduction of 8 people in 2 states and several cities. It was a response. What the mass abduction was, I'm the alien hunter. That's not a term somebody just said. I hunt them that hunted me and later hunted my son. That's the end of the story. You come after my kids, now you're messing big time now. I'll come after you. So I devised a plan and did a special session. I'm a master hypnotherapist. That means I'm the guy that certifies the hypnotist. You can't get your license without me. That's that sort of thing. So I took this client who was a contactee. That's somebody that loves these guys, and let's sing Kumbaya with the boys and all that. And I took her, asked her to volunteer. She said, "You've never charged us a penny. You've never charged a dime for anything you do. Not the surgeons, not anything. I'll help you do anything you want." I said, "I need your brain, and I need you because you're a contactee, because you're not of my ilk. I'm an abductee, sorry." And she says, "Okay." And I says, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "I can't tell you anything. You're just going to have to trust me. I'm going to put it on film, but you can never see the film until after. Because I am going to lay a trap for the alien. I don't know if it'll work. I have no clue. I don't know." It worked. In response to the suggestions I gave the woman, I found an abductee that had, in my opinion, ex-intelligence guy here, I found information in one of my abductees. I thought, if I were the alien and that story was true, I would be real concerned that somebody knows something about me. He saw things he should not have seen on that craft. Right. That's why abductees come back with a block. They can't remember anything. You saw or heard something you should not have heard or seen. I got the information from the guy and think, well, we'll just use that. So I installed that in her head as a memory, as if it were real. I installed an amnesia on the front side so that she couldn't remember it, and on the back side so he could never retrieve where she got it.
Right.
And now she's got a memory that she has no idea where it came from. So I don't know if it's any good or not. It must have been, because 2 weeks later after that event, when they abducted her, and she did something really dumb. She says, she pops out in the abduction, you know how they're all tranced out and all this. She pops up, wakes up completely, and looks at him just as cold as anything in the world and said, Daryl knows what you're doing. You're not supposed to say, Daryl, don't do that. You messed my show up here.
Right.
But anyway, they will tell the boss, and somebody told somebody, and a craft shows up and picks up all these people in 2 states, her, my senior investigator and engineer. If you want to know what I'm doing, who would you go get? You're not going to come get me. You get my senior investigator as an engineer. He'll tell you everything. He asked me later, said, why didn't you tell me what you did? I said, because you're an abductee. You think I'm stupid? You would have told him everything. He said, of course I would. Why would I tell you what my secret plan is? I'm not going to do that.
Right.
That leads you for everything.
Right.
So they get on board the craft, and I'll give you the short version of this, and 2 guys from mid-level management show up. These are high-level beings that are in charge above the alien. And they want to know 2 things. Why did he do that? And he's looking at them, do what? The guy went ballistic. Now there's, over here watching this show, standing there at attention, scared stiff, is a Bigfoot. And all the other aliens, all these so-called species you talk about, they're not species, these are models.
Right.
They're hatched, cloned, made, manufactured for the purpose of interaction with mankind to convince you they're aliens from other worlds. They don't even know what they are. Their memory is installed in them as to what whoever made them wants them to believe.
You know how scary. You know how scary that is. How that sounds. I mean, that's pretty terrifying.
It is. I totally agree. It's horrific. So this is not difficult to think about. If you think of every one of those entities, one's a reptile.
Right.
Where are you going to get reptile DNA?
Right.
Venus? It's not going to happen. Where are you going to get praying mantis DNA? Zeta Reticuli? Forget it. Where are you going to get the DNA for the human, the Nordics there? Probably Norway. I don't know. Just a wild guess. What about all the other, the Bigfoot? They did DNA test on the thing, found out it was obviously an ape, but it's also modern DNA from a modern woman. Not some ancient woman. It's a modern human being woman. Oh my gosh. Wake up and smell whatever it is you're drinking, because it's not coffee. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure this stuff out. This is just basic, really investigative work. So all these entities are standing there. They're scared to death of the guy sitting in the big chair. And the Nordic guy, he's really shaking. Dale is 6'2". The Nordic stoops down and puts his forehead on Dale's head, because he's about 6'8". Puts his forehead on Dale, and his big, beautiful blue eyes are so pretty. Puts his eyes right next to Dale's and everything, and looks at him, puts his hand on both sides of his head, looks at the guy sitting in the big chair and says, he doesn't know. And then the guy cools off. In the other room, the same questioning is going on with the lady I programmed. Another big guy sitting in the chair, and they produce a human brain, an image of a human brain, and the big Nordic guy, the big boss there, asks the big question. He says, produces a human brain and everything, he says, you ready for this? Fasten your seatbelt. Point to where the human soul is.
You're freaking me out.
It freaked everybody out. In the other room, the lady she said, look, I call it a computer screen because I don't know what it was.
Right.
And there was a human brain on that. These two don't know anything what's happening to each other. I separated everybody in this event. They all told these stories independent of each other. This is big stuff. She sees the human brain, and the big guy sitting in the chair with her looks over and says, point to the human spirit.
You know when he looks in my eyeballs and says that? You guys have no idea. The hair. Daryl, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much. You know I love you. And I'm going to make everybody here jealous. Was it 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago now.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, get a phone call. Daryl, hey, man, I'm in town. You know, what are you doing? I said, hey, let's cook dinner over at our place. I'm down. Next thing you know, Rita and I are barbecuing on our patio with Daryl Sims until 2 o'clock in the morning. We talked all night long. You are the man, Daryl Sims. Give it up for Daryl.
Give it up.
With that, I'm going to take a break, but I need to take a break because coming up on this stage right in front of you, and he's right there, John Burroughs.
That's it.
John Burroughs.
John.
Rendlesham. And a good friend of mine, John Lund. John, wave to everybody. He'll be here in a second. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Give it up, Roswell. Let's go.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter. But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Another winter, another cold and flu season. This year, try Sweet Annie's Herbs FACS formula. FACS means flu, allergy, cold, and sinus relief. Vitamin C, echinacea, golden seal, and propolis. Nature's antibiotic and antiviral remedy. Karen from Springfield says, amazing product, a miracle worker for me. Go to sweetannie.com and order FACS today. Use promo code TALK for free shipping. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. TalkStream Live, now available in the iTunes App Store.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99, and you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Roswell, New Mexico. We are live. This is Fade to Black. Give it up, give it up, give it up. From the Roswell Museum, UFO Festival 2016. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can email Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. All right. Thank you, Daryl Sims. What a great show so far, everybody, right? John Burroughs.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, John, speaking to the microphone, this is the deal, John. Now that you're a radio, big rock star, big radio guy. Big radio guy. Did you play basketball? Why did you go into the armed service? Why did you have bad ankles? I mean, what's the deal?
Well,
did you have a jump shot? Could you play?
Yeah, I could play.
All the way.
Is it not a pineapple? Okay, I could play, but I chose the fact that I didn't feel like going to college for school. Right. So I went ahead and took the route of the military instead. And actually, if I hadn't hurt my back in the military, I was probably going to get out after 4 years, use the GI program, and then actually go to school and play basketball.
Man, I tell you what, man, if I had your height with my jump shot, I'd be on the Lakers. Man.
They got openings. Did you hear the contracts today? They're signing guys that average 8 minutes a game to $30 million.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
It's amazing.
And you get a shoe deal.
There you go.
Right. And John Lund, he's, you know what, John, first off, and the audience is like, well, who's John Lund? We're going to talk to John after we're finished with John, actually. It's kind of weird. Because he's a smart guy. And so, and we're going to take questions and so forth. So in a minute, I see the thing is, John, you're working on some important stuff, and I'm going to allow you to say what you're doing, and instead of having me be the blabbermouth on it. Fair enough?
That sounds great.
Are you cool with that? Okay. All right, Mr. Burroughs, what is, look, John and I are on the same network, KGRA, The Planet. Has it been a year?
It'll be a year at the end of July.
A year at the end of July. So I'm going to back up. It was probably 14 months ago, or maybe a little longer. He was telling me, I want to do this radio thing. I got so much to say. You remember those conversations? And I said, you know what? Just do it. Get out there and do it. And your show, which it's called Phenomenon, is a phenomenon. It is really taken off. How are you now a year later? Are your feet under you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was real easy because the person I do it with is Linda Moulton Howe. Probably everybody knows who she is, and she's a pro. So it was easy. She took the reins, and I got to slide in. And we've had some great guests over the last year, and we've hopefully educated some people on the phenomenon itself, some of the things that are going on within the military, the technology, and everything else.
Now, the first night on the air, and then we're going to move on to current events, but the first night on the air, I was listening to you, and I listened to your show. It's on before mine, right? I couldn't have been prouder. You had so much to say, right? And you were, I'm saying, you're like a little kid that once you get started, you can't shut them up. And that's always been you, but now you have a platform to go and do that with. Will we ever shut you up? I mean, you really enjoy what you're doing, but you also have a lot to say.
We do, and there's a lot of people out there that Linda and I have got on a list that we really want to get on. And we want to take it from the serious note of letting people come on and talk about technology and evidence. It's not like somebody just comes on and like a witness. So there's nothing against witnesses. We're bringing people on and have documentation and stuff that can back up what they're having to say. We just had Joe McGonigal on a couple weeks ago. And
great show, by the way.
One of the things that we learned, it was very interesting. We're going along. He's talking about a remote view project he did. And he goes into this particular submarine, and they said, wait a minute, that's Hunt for Red October. And he goes, yep. He goes, he was the one that discovered the submarine in the Hunt for Red October. He discovered the submarine.
Yeah.
And then when I asked him, I said, so how much of the book is true? He goes, that's classified. We can't talk about it. So evidently, a lot of what was in the movie with Clancy is true.
Now, let's jump to 2 months ago. Hillary is on Kimmel, and she says and corrects Kimmel, and out of her mouth she says UAP.
Right.
What I immediately thought of you.
Right.
And so please tell me, what did you fall off the chair? Did you freak out? Did you know it was coming? Share that moment with us because it had to have been pretty cool.
Well, I actually didn't know it was coming, but as soon as she said it, it started to add up to a lot of things that we were doing on our show and what we've been working on. And I started doing some research, and it came back to finding out that one of the things that a lot of people probably aren't aware of is actually in 2011, John Podesta's think tank brought in Nick Pope. They went over Condyne, which is still highly classified, but there's been stuff out. Matter of fact, Nick's down here speaking in another engagement. We were talking about it today. There's a lot of stuff in Condyne that the Podesta group and Hillary Clinton are using, and it appears, and I say appears because a lot of times we've always heard we're going to learn something, but it appears, and I'm not a Clinton supporter, so everybody understand this. I'm not trying to say vote for Hillary, but it appears that if she somehow gets elected, they're going to move forward and do some kind of, I call it confirmation, not disclosure, because that ties into Bigelow's work and what he said, we can have confirmation but not disclosure. We'll admit that something's going on. UAP seems to be the new nomenclature, as he calls it, which is non-threatening like UFOs are, and they're going to let us know something's going on, but the majority of it's still going to be classified.
How many people here saw Hillary on Kimmel? Okay. Oh, really? Not the whole room. I'm a little bit, okay. All right, well, Hillary said, so I just want to help everybody understand why this is so important, what John and I are talking about. UAP is unidentified aerial phenomena. And the Condyne report, this all ties together. The Condyne report that John is talking about is one of the, I remember when I called you on the phone and I said, man, that paragraph is freaking me out, which was the UAP paragraph.
Right.
And for them to say UAP, this is a British report, the effects are known from a UAP and they last for such and such a minute. You know the exact words. I'm paraphrasing here.
Right.
But this admission in this paragraph, which is, the report itself is long and it's complicated. But when you read this one paragraph, and if you don't, if you don't read it all, you because it's so short, you would just blow past it. But I stopped and I went, wait a minute, they're actually admitting that they've collected data and know the significance of the effects of being around some ET craft. And not so many words, right?
Right.
Well, UAP was the word that was used. Now, unless you're in the circle, like John, or you've read the Condyne report, or you know about Podesta and this UAP being used, you probably have never heard about it. So I'm going to ask this room right now, how many people have heard of UAP? About half. How many have heard UFO? The whole room. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So UAP is part of of researchers that this is. How do I want to say this? The new UFO, the new 3-letter UFO. Is that the best way to say it?
Right, and it's non-threatening.
It's non-threatening, and it's also not used. Now, if you know what UAP means, that means you're studying the subject. And Hillary got on Kimmel, and UAP flies out of her mouth, and she's correcting Kimmel, saying, UFO is so passé, dude. Right? It's UAP now. And I about fell out. That's why this is so important and where UAP came from. So that's the long and winded version of it, but it's an important thing for her to do.
Right. There's two more things. Sometime in August or September now, that's what Nick told me today, the MOD is going to release some more files. How many remember when the MOD said they had no more files? They released them all, the final batch in 2013. Show of hands. They actually came out and said, we have no more files to release.
We have nada.
Right. And I did FOIA, and I caught them in a lie. But one of the things that's in this FOIA that they're going to have to explain is not only there are 18 files, but there's 6 policy files in there, which means when you have policy files, the government has policies on UFOs, UAPs. Now, the MOD has always said this is all of non-defense significance. Why would you have policies on non-significant defense. This is late. I'm sorry, folks. But the other thing is when in these policy files, what they have released so far is they changed the nomenclature from UFOs to UAPs in 2000. That was the year that Condign was finished and released inside the MOD. They actually had it leak out in 2006 through FOIA. So some kind of research they did within Condign also led them to believe to change it from UFOs to UAPs.
Now, there's a lot of similarities to Roswell and Rendlesham. But I'm going to speak to something very direct, and that's the obvious military side. And out of everything that we have, so many redacted and blacked out and things in FOIA documents. But what we do have that are similar in both of these events is a direct military involvement the day of, and from the beginning.
Right.
And that's what you have here. Are we ever going to get hold on, let me back up. Before I say, are we ever going to get some more documents directly related to Rendlesham? How close were we to not finding out about Rendlesham, just like Roswell? It's a crazy similarity that it almost was a non-issue, and it's a crazy thought.
No, it was, and through some work, through some people in England, some investigators over there, Leif Rossenberg, Greenwood, they were able to establish something happened. And then from there, the News of the World got in the middle of it, and they were able to get the Halt memo out. And when the Halt memo came out, it blew it open as far as something did happen. And the Air Force, for whatever reason, they decided they weren't going to deny the incident because of the memo, so they didn't want to make it look like it was covered up. But what they didn't want us to do was talk about what really went on. So they wanted us to admit something took place, but they didn't really want us to go into great detail. But one of the things that's happened, which I'll go briefly into, I have been able to prove, because of my settlement with the VA, by de facto, because my settlement was based on the fact the VA admitted I was injured in the line of duty in the force at Rendlesham Forest. So by de facto, they've admitted that the phenomenon injured me, and they're taking care of me now. So they've opened up a little bit now to that. They've admitted, which they normally don't do. And I do believe before this is over, if Hillary goes through with what she says, Rendlesham will be involved in this release.
Man, let me tell you something, John. And there are a lot of researchers and contactees and stuff that have stuck to it over the years amid some crazy negative things, and for you it's been the absolute worst. But here we are. This is 2016, man. 2016,
right?
And finally things are starting to move forward. But I'm very proud of you, and I want this room to get really loud right now, just for the thanks for everything that you have done since Christmas 1980. 80.
36 years.
I mean, seriously. Okay, now with the success of the VA win, and I'm not talking about me when I tell everybody, or when I say, well, we talked right after that, but you know what? That day when everything happened, and you and I were talking about it, I could hear it in your voice. It was the stress, because leading up to it, we were having those very same conversations, not only on the show but privately, about the possibility of this happening. But it's going to move forward, maybe. But finally, it actually happened. Do you feel better? I mean, is it a victory, or is it just, the rock is halfway up the hill, man, and we're not there yet?
Well, for me, there was more to it. I had to have open heart surgery to correct my heart damage. I still have major heart damage, but I'm getting a lot better. So that's a victory. I'm alive. I get to be with my son, get to watch him continue to grow up, play football and everything else. And then the other factor is it was a small victory in the fact that they admitted that our incident took place.
Did you ever think you were going to see the day?
No.
I mean, they kept it buried. I mean, that's all they did. They reburied the bury.
Right.
Right? And I mean, and how do you find the energy to keep going? I mean, it's the military-industrial complex, man. It's the Pentagon. It's everything. It's the VA. It is the bureaucracy of doom. You know, why? I mean,
for me, it was self-preservation. I mean, I was sick, I was dying, I was close to heart failure, and then, you know, and I'm not able to work full-time anymore. So I had a vested interest in that, on top of the fact that, you know, it's important to let people know. I don't know what it was, so I'm not here to tell you what it was. There is a declassified British document that says it's a phenomenon, UAP. Okay, but they don't really say what it is. They do say that they're trying to study it to weaponize it, and that's as much as we know, really. I mean, and a lot of the reports redacted, so probably some of the most important stuff in there you're not gonna know about, you know. But the end of the day, they're starting to open up a little bit. The problem is, what is the truth still? Because even if they came forward tomorrow, how many people would trust what they told you?
Yeah, none.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this, on behalf of everybody in this room. Are you remembering more and more about those 3 days today?
No.
Are you remembering less? I mean, it's days go by. You know, it's further behind you.
Not really. It's about the same. I mean, and I was very careful because several people have been under hypnosis, and that's affected their testimony. What I've done is been very clear on what I remember and what came out under hypnosis. Everybody that's gone under hypnosis, the story expands. And it's almost unbelievable, some of what people have said.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of what came out under my hypnosis, and no one knows where it came from. But I've pretty much been the same from day one as far as what I remember. And I'll tell you, if you ask a question and you've heard something, that's what I remember, that's what came out of hypnosis. And that's important.
Okay, just one last time.
Yeah.
What did it look like?
For me, a lot of people said it was triangular. I saw an oval-type red object that was surrounded by a white light, had an orangish hue in it and blue lights in it. And that ties back to Condyne, which they'll tell you that's frequencies. The coloring of the lights is the frequencies you're dealing with, which leads to terahertz radiation. Terahertz radiation is the most classified radiation technology in the world today. It leads to plasmas and plasma technology. And that's why probably Rendlesham is still locked down to this day.
Anybody have any questions? I'm going to open this up really quick for John. Does anybody have any questions for John? Daryl, what do you got?
I've got a couple of friends that have got some verified pieces of 2 UFOs. Now one of them also claims he's got a piece of the Rendlesham metal. Or not say a piece of it. He's got information from that about some of the reports, what the metals are. They seem to be consistent with the other 2 pieces. And Bob White is one of the metals that was studied. Do you know anything about that? Can you verify or not?
First I've heard of it. I have never heard that they've ever had any kind of physical evidence other than the radiation readings and the holes in the ground and the damage to the trees. So that's a new one on me.
And I guess the claims, or I should say the claims, but yeah, Pennison that says that he touched it, right? You had Bustinza that got dizzy from possibly, help me out here.
He got knocked to the ground.
He got knocked to the ground.
And held down.
Okay, but no physical contact.
No, he was close to it, and he's had a rash problem.
Right, but no official contact, right? And that's really it, right? Pennison
and I and Bustinza got the closest to it. But Colonel Halt, actually on his tape, if you listen to it, he talks about something coming over the top of him and beaming some light down at his feet.
But what I'm referring to is, did anybody possibly, get some metal off of this thing? No. I mean, the only contact was Bustinza was probably he passed out, got the burn. Pennison touched it, did his download, right?
Right.
You blacked out.
Right, but both Pennison and Bustinza both said I went into it and disappeared.
Right. But did you come out with some metal and sell it on the black market?
I've got nothing on eBay, folks.
Okay, all right. John, you are the very best, man. Give it up for John Bleepin Burroughs. You're going to want to hang around for this.
Okay.
Just hang around for this. John, step up to the mic. John Lund, everybody. Who is John Lund? John, go ahead, give it up for John. It's his first time on the radio. All right, John, I'm gonna let you describe what you're working on right now.
All right, thank you. And first of all, I want to say I'm very humbled to be on this show with these amazing researchers and authors, and I want to give it up for you, Jimmy, everybody here, for everything you do to move this everything forward.
Okay, thank you. What a great weekend, and it's been, and John, thank you for that. You didn't have to do that. Okay, so Modern Masters. Let's just go right there.
All right, let's do it. All right, Modern Masters is a project I'm starting. It's called a meta-reality game, and what that means is that it's this package of something that's mysterious and fun and engaging, but it's real. So it takes place in the real world. Everything you do is real, and all the projects that you take part in are improving your life and improving the lives of those around you and eventually the world. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build awareness. We're trying to get it started. We have people that are engaged, and we're looking for people to help. The whole project is built around the community, and everything is embedded with the idea of open collaboration and transparency and all these values that we have in our society that don't really go up to the top at the moment. And we're trying to build something to capture all that and a way for everybody to put the power that they have into action.
Now, so what you're referring to, and that sounded so geek speak, it wasn't even funny. They're laughing because they're like, man, what did he say? It's a game.
It's a game.
Do you guys get it? Right? Okay. And now, without giving away too much, because people steal really great ideas, this has moved along here really quick. But is it a game that is modifiable? I'm only going to say Sims because of the success of Sims, and everybody in here understands it. And where you are creating worlds that you live in, and you're creating characters. But in this case, the character is...
It's you. I mean,
it's you.
Yeah, it's something that's real, right? So it's a game in the sense that it's fun and it's mysterious, and everybody is part of it, and you are being motivated by this really compelling storyline. But really, everything that happens it happens to you. It happens to the community that you live in. So you may get a quest one day from the game that says that you need to experiment with new ways of running your community, and you may have to run it as a tyranny. You may have to be king for a week and see how that affects the people's lives that you live with, and then you have to build that into something that is bigger and say, well, how did I feel about that? How did that affect the community I live in?
But is that only because somebody is into kings or King Arthur, and that's how that would be dictated? What if somebody said, today you are going to be an alien gray, and you're going to go out and abduct a cow?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Anything is possible in this, right? So you said just a moment ago that it's modifiable. So there are lessons to be learned from these modern games, The Sims. I think Minecraft is a really good example because it's this structured environment where you can create your own worlds. And this is exactly what you just mentioned, that the participants in the game, the players of the game, have the ability to rewrite the story, have the ability to say, we need to have a quest where you become an ET in order to experience what that may be like and to gain a new knowledge that you may not have had before.
So very soon there will be a way for everybody to reach out to you and websites and so forth.
Yeah, we're up right now, modernmasters.org. And you can go up there and you can sign up. You'll start receiving information about what we're doing, and you can become part of it. And really, it's an exciting time right now because we're on the ground floor, and there's so much to do, and there's so much help that we need. And we're, like I said, building it in such a way that everybody that's a part of it can contribute. It's not a hierarchical structure. Everybody that is participating has the option to write new storylines, to develop quests, to teach people what to. How they could have new experiences that might entertain them, educate them, give them new experiences they may never have had. And this is a really unique place here at Roswell because there are a lot of people that are trying to do that. And hopefully, Modern Masters can be a platform for people to share these experiences in a way that really touch people using these new technologies and theories that have been developed.
Give everybody that website one more time, John.
modernmasters.org.
There you go. John Lund, everybody. Give it up.
Thank you,
modernmasters.org. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to let everybody ask me a question, and we'll give away some stuff if the question is good. Are you guys down? Yes? It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hey, I'll make you a deal. Give me 60 seconds, and I'll give you directions to the Fountain of Youth. Okay, I'm joking. Well, kind of joking. No fountains, but youth, I got. Nature's Youth, and their premier anti-aging product, Nature's Youth RSF. With your sensible diet and exercise plan, Nature's Youth RSF can help you look and feel better. RSF is an all-natural amino acid supplement that supports your body to naturally increase HGH levels without any synthetic hormones. And elevated HGH levels can contribute to increased energy, improved libido, reduced body fat, and improved exercise capacity. Let's be honest, who doesn't want to look and feel younger? Visit the newly designed website at naturesyouth.com or call 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923, and like them on Facebook, and you'll be included in contest and exclusive offers. What a deal. Oh, speaking of deals, my time's about up. 800-333-6923 or naturesyouth.com. Who needs a fountain anyway? Call today.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, the last segment. How's everybody doing? You made it to the end. Let's go. Roswell. Wow. Lost my pipes. All right, I'm going to do this really quick because this is the last segment, and I want to thank everybody tonight. It's a lot of fun to do this in front of a live audience, and all of the guests tonight, too, as well. But I've got a few cool giveaways, but you have to ask me a question. Who's got a question? Really quick. I've got really cool Fade or Not decoder pens right here. Come on up. What's your name? What's your name? David, what's your question?
I've seen you on several episodes of Hangar 1, the UFO Files, and I just want to know, what are your thoughts on the hollow earth and Admiral Byrd about how he's supposedly
Ooh, you're going there. Okay. I almost want to go, what's your opinion? But, okay. There's something going on. That's what I think. There's something going on. And we can say there's something going on about anything. It's really weird. There's something going on. But Bird, you don't go down to Antarctica with an armed fleet. What for penguins, right? What are you going down there for? Now, we have enough documentation, acquired knowledge, eyewitness testimony about the U-boat activity, the building of a base down there, the possibility of the Third Reich making contact, and with contact with who, right? That right there indicates you're not going down there for snow, right? You're not going down there for ice. There's plenty of that around there. But then you start to combine that with scientific stuff that we have today. The possibility of Antarctica moving. You have the Pierce-Reese map, and how that, the Perry-Reese, Pierce Brosnan, Pierce Morgan, Perry-Reese map, that clearly shows Antarctica before there was ice. And there was no way to know that unless A, B, C, and D come into play here. So where did that knowledge come from? I tend to think that I feel, I don't want to sound crazy. I don't. But the one place you would go to be safe in the event of something catastrophic, cataclysmic, is you're going to go underground. And if Antarctica's moving around and you've got comets hitting the Earth and so forth, you're going to go underground. And just maybe you don't come back up for whatever reason. And now if you're in an area that is really, really cold, like Antarctica, maybe it's warmer to be down there. Now, the hollow Earth theory, that's a whole other thing. I'll say this. How much time do I have? Okay, I got enough to answer this one. I'll tell you what I don't buy into. The flat Earth theory. Okay? I love that. You guys are we on the same page here? Now, so here we have these two interesting situations. We have the flat Earth and trying to buy into that, right? And the flat Earth theorists. And then you have the hollow Earth. I'm okay with the hollow Earth. It's a weird thing to me. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the hollow Earth. I don't know. I don't have any proof. There's so much mythology that goes back with so many different civilizations. Going back a long ways. There's always, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I know that this is the long answer for all of this, but, I think there's something going on. And when I think of the hollow Earth and the elevator that goes 100 miles underground in Manhattan, okay, I'm not so sure about that. The secret elevator at it's over. Okay, that's not where I'm going with this. But the possibility of a civilization that's living inside of the Earth that, quite frankly, can't live out here, for a lot of different reasons, makes a lot of sense. And will we know about it? Well, you know what? They may not want us to even know that they are there, So do I buy into it? I think there's something to it. I really do, and I'm okay with it. The flat Earth theory, I'm not okay with that at all. I don't even entertain it. I don't even want people to know that I've even said those words because it just sounds so funky, right? But the hollow Earth, I'm okay with that. Are you guys with me? Okay, good. Hey, I want to thank everybody here tonight. Who wants a secret decoder pen? Daryl, you've got. Why do you always want the free stuff? Catch it. I don't want to take your eye out. Okay, I might have some more over here. This has been Fade to Black. Give it up, Roswell. Thank you so much. What a show tonight. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamari. Where's Rita? Where's Rita? She's outside. She should come in and take a bow. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, G. Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar, Fady Bidale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black. It's produced by the Game Changer Network. Syndication, KGRA The Planet. Thank you to all the guests tonight. Absolutely phenomenal show. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be copied or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from the Game Changer Network or Fade to Black. There's Rita. Everybody give it up for Rita. Right there. My lovely wife. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Email Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow me on Twitter @JChurchRadio. Live from Roswell. Everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.